Okay, so here we are with another episode of Read 'em and Reap. As I announced earlier, I'm on with Yvonne today, and in a way we're circling back, and this is probably the episode that should have been episode 1, but we had the opportunity last week to go live with Katie Myers and talk about her book, and knowing that she is in a 2-day intensive retreat setting this week, doing more great things, no doubt, but we weren't going to have her available. there's Katie's book. So I want to circle back and talk a little bit more about what this show is meant to do. For folks who've been following me and reading some of the blog posts and so on, you know that my new not-so-secret identity is Old Dog Learning. And as I dug into what I wanted to do after Blog Pause, I really spent some time thinking about myself, my age, who I wanted to work with, what kind of work I wanted to do with them, and found myself doing a lot of reading on aging and happiness in older age. And one of the themes that emerged is that learning new stuff is one of the best ways to keep your brain alive and vital and functioning. And so Old Dog Learning is the theme for that, and reading is a core piece of the learning part. As I said last week, I saw a blog post on the Muse that talked about 5 benefits to your career from reading, and I think most of them were somewhat familiar to people, but then I came across another scientific study that correlates people who read 30 minutes a day from books, and there's a significant advantage of books over other kinds of reading, live longer. So you have more time for reading if you read. Anyway, that's the point of Read 'em and Reap, the reaping the benefits of being a reader. And what Yvonne and I talked about for today was to kind of share a little bit about the books that we've recently read, are reading right now, and kind of invite you guys to tell us which of these you'd like to see us feature. I'll back up again. The 3 different kinds of episodes I foresee for Read 'em and Reap will be like we did with Katie, talking about a book that she wrote. One of the books I'm sure I want to get to at some point or another is the Dalai Lama's book, The Book of Joy, with Desmond Tutu, and I'm fairly sure I'm not going to be able to get either of them on the show. So I'll have to talk to you about this one. If anyone else has read a book that I'm going to cover, I'm happy to consider having you on as a guest if we can work out the timing and so on. And then the third kind of episode would be if you want to suggest a book that we ought to talk about on the show and come on and sort of in part take over as the moderator and present a book, I'm happy to learn from you as well. I think learning is best done as a 2-way thing anyway. So Yvonne, why don't we start? I haven't let you talk yet, so tell us a little bit about some books you'd like to encourage people.
Well, first of all, I'm glad to be on the show, and second of all, you presume that people know who I am, and many of the people
I do. Sorry.
will likely know, but I hope other people who come will say, who is this Yvonne DiVita person? And basically, I'm Tom's wife and partner, and to the effect that we both are readers and writers. We used to run a print-on-demand publishing company, in the not so long ago past, before we morphed ourselves into professional bloggers with our online pet blogging community, Blog Pause, which we are retired from at this point. And as Tom moves forward with his Old Dog Learning and Old Dog Digital work, focused on the things he just talked about, I too am moving forward and returning to my roots, where I am eagerly and actively hoping to work with new or established authors who are writing a book. And the company that I do that with is called Your Publishing Pro. And within Your Publishing Pros, I have a project that we will talk about a little bit later. For now, what I'd love to do is just kind of put out there that as Tom, I'm an avid reader. You won't find me without a book unless I'm in front of the computer. I haven't yet learned how to do my computer work and read at the same time, other than the articles that I read. So, but I mean, some of the books I've read, and that maybe at some time we can go into more depth on, are Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In.
Ooh.
Didn't think I would like it. Didn't even plan on reading it. But as I move forward with my focus on women, women's literature, women's writings, and where women are going in the world of business, I decided I needed to read this. And so I did, and I confess that I enjoyed it tremendously. But let me tell you that a book I've read recently that will be very interesting to women, I'm not sure the men will like it or be interested, is The Magic of Menopause. And this is Lorraine Miano.
Another theme on aging well.
Yes, but she talks about menopause in different kinds of language and words, and she talks about your health and your diet and the way that you think. So relevant to a lot of what Tom talks about, Lorraine wants us to be focused on the positive and focused on the light in our lives, and stop thinking about getting old as a bad thing, because it's not a bad thing. You know, and I have a couple of other books, and at some point in time I told Tom, I'm going to knock over a thing here if I keep doing this. But I did say I do at some point want to talk about this. This is, yes. This woman is one of the most fantastic. And I didn't know that I was going to like her book. Jennifer Lawrence was in the movie. I haven't seen the movie. I thought it got a lot of hype. I thought, you know, this was another privileged woman who went on to become famous. Not so. She's just like the rest of us. And she went out there, got things done, and now she's a millionaire.
I'm sorry, Yvonne. I want to just quickly explain to you why I'm laughing so hard. We have a comment stream full of complete morons and trolls that are talking about couches and auctions and making stupid comments about menopause and folks I've never heard of. I didn't even know how they got here. But our friend Amanda Yantos was kind enough to ask them to leave. Personally, I don't care. I'm just trying to keep track and make sure I don't miss any real comments from sensible folks that we know and would like to engage with. So.
Yeah, well, they probably found us because I did do a little bit of reach out on Twitter, and I'm not sure when you reach out on Twitter who actually sees what you post. And a couple of accounts.
Hi, Robbie. We have another real visitor here.
Oh, Robbie, there you are.
So, all right. Let me talk about a couple of books that I've read that I've gone on and on with Yvonne about, and probably talked to a few people. One of the really interesting ones that relates to my work going forward is It's Never Too Late to Begin Again. Julia Cameron, some of you may have run across her. She wrote a book about 25 years ago called The Artist's Way that was a bestseller, and it gets into nurturing a creative lifestyle. The new book, It's Never Too Late to Begin Again, picks up on a lot of the same techniques and themes, but really focuses on folks who are in retirement or retirement age, at least as society sees it. You know how much I hate that retiring word.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We could do a whole show on that.
Oh yeah. Hers is, yeah, that's my point. I want to just show off a few books. I'd like to get feedback from some people. Yeah, Robbie says she got that one. Yeah, book about auction couches, whatever. So that's one of the books that I intend to cover somewhere along the way in the show. Another one that is really interesting to me is called Mind Shift, and the subtitle is Breakthrough Obstacles to Learning and Discover Your Hidden Potential. So it hits the learning theme, but the mind shift part of this book is that it is really focused on career shifting, on techniques for finding, the blog post I wrote about finding your work, and about finding new paths when the work you're doing is no longer, either never was or is no longer a fulfilling way for you to live your life. So Mind Shift, I talked about the Book of Joy.
Who's the author of Mind Shift?
Barbara Oakley. And one of the really interesting things about her, for folks who may have heard of MOOCs, which are massive online open courses. They tend to be online learning settings that are affiliated in some way with a university or college, and they occasionally even have credit. Who is the author of Mind Shift? Good question, Amanda. So Barbara Oakley is the one of the instructors on, at least I think it was, when she introduced in the book, it was the largest MOOC on the internet. It's out of San Diego State, and it's called Learning How to Learn. I've taken the course. It is really interesting. It gets into a lot of the neuroscience around learning and teaches you some techniques for breaking through whatever challenges you might have with learning, and really helps people get confidence that stuff they thought as a kid, I'm not good at math, that whole thing, how to get past that. She tells stories in Mind Shift of people who moved from techie careers to music, and from sales to woodworking, and just things they never necessarily thought they even had a chance of being good at or making a living at. So yeah, I'll get into more detail on Mind Shift in another show. This one, 7 Steps to Managing Your Memory, is written by a doctor and a psychologist who are working in Alzheimer's and memory challenges in the aging. But the inspiring thing for me is there's a lot of progress being made in both prevention and treatment for Alzheimer's, and their book is all about the hope of avoiding it yourself, and that as a society we may end up conquering it. So that's a really interesting book. And the last one I'll talk about before I shift it back to Yvonne is this book, The 100-Year Life. Again, if you've been to my blog or site, you may have noticed the 100 Plus Life community page that I've put up. There's a lot more coming there, and I'll be sharing information about it. But this book, The 100-Year Life, subtitle, Living and Working in an Age of Longevity. Don't know how much thought you've put into it, but the average life expectancy in America is now approaching 80. That's the average. That means half of everybody is going to live longer than 80, and some quite a bit longer than 80. I don't know if you've really noticed the trend, but there seemed to be about every week another good news story about somebody celebrating their 100th birthday, or a bad news story of somebody dying past their 100th birthday. We're all, as a species, we are just getting older. One of the great stats is that there's a group of scientists who think that people who were born in since 2000 have a 50% shot at living to 150. And the mind-boggling thing about that for me is that if you've ever heard of the Chinese philosophy of the seventh generation, about making decisions today that will be beneficial to your seventh generation, one of the core pieces of that is that, of course, you're never going to see them, but the idea is to benefit future generations. But folks who live to 150 may get to meet their seventh generation face to face and answer to them. So it gives a new meaning to that whole thing. So let me read a couple of quick sentences. This will happen. I'm going to read sometimes on this show. It's my show. Let's see. We are in the midst of an extraordinary transition that few of us are prepared for. If we get it right, it will be a real gift. To ignore and fail to prepare will be a curse. Whoever you are, wherever you live, however old you are now, you need to start thinking about the decisions you'll make in order to make the most of this longer life. And this is the key one. We talk a lot about what is the most precious resource you have. And most people, I think, agree that it's time. Well, this living longer concept makes you wealthier than you may have originally thought when you were younger. And their question to all of us is how you choose to use and structure that time is at the heart of the response to living longer. So the 100 plus life community that I'm building on my site is going to focus on that. How do we make, instead of thinking about getting older, how do we make it about living longer with the emphasis on living? So that's my teaser about the 100 plus life community. It's coming. I'm building it all by myself. So kind of like the basement remodeling project here, it'll probably take a while. Let me see if there's any. Melissa Clinton says her mom is 87, still sharp as a tack. Good for her. Yeah, that's definitely the heart of the theme. And the point of this community, I hope, is that it will be multi-generational. So Melissa, it'd be great if you and your mom could both join it and think about, what does the 100 plus life mean to her? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to your kids? And so on. I think there's a lot to be gained by thinking about this across generations, the impact it's going to have on work and jobs and organizations that employ people and so on. So yeah, let's see. Is there anything else in there? All right. Yeah, Amanda, grab that book. That would be great. All right, Yvonne, over to you.
Over to me. So
on books and projects.
And we'll give everybody something else to think about, because I have no intention of living to 150. And you know, I look at all these things Tom's doing, and I look at these books, and I think they're all a bunch of baloney, except for the fact that my dad was 90. My mom just passed, and she was 88, Melissa, and she was in fairly good health, both physically and mentally. I mean, she had her problems, rather. My dad had Alzheimer's, so it was difficult for him and for the rest of the family. But it is absolutely true that, you know, maybe I could live to be 100. I mean, to me, 100 is a good goal also. It doesn't have to be 150. Tom is welcome to live that long if he chooses. And,
you don't get a choice. But if you think it's going to be less, what if you're wrong? Shouldn't you be thinking about what the best case scenario should be?
I guess. I mean, I think that our kids are more likely to live that much longer. And also, somewhere along the line, it seems to me, as we're talking about the 100+ life and people joining the academy and participating, that we need people who are in the health area. So they don't have to be doctors and nurses, but they could be. But we need people who actually are looking at the way the body's going to age and how to help it stay vital, which is what Tom wants and works on himself. He's a big one on making sure you take your vitamins. You know, that's the kind of thing that I'm interested in seeing, where medical science and where science in general and medicine all together, where are they taking it so that 150 is pretty much an average. Almost everybody can make it that far. And as Tom said, why shouldn't you be? I have to agree. We watch TV and we actually watch the news and commercials, folks. I know nobody watches commercials anymore, but Tom and I watch commercials. The truth being that we see these mentions in the news when they bring on I don't know what the term is, but a person who's 100, a centenarian, is that what we would call them? Yeah. And some of them are in remarkably good health and remarkably lucid and very well, and they may not last for another year, but through that time, they are still living very nicely. They are happy. They are out taking their walks. They are traveling. They are doing the kinds of things they've always done that they enjoy. So it's absolutely happening now. And Tom may be on the leading edge, considering the average citizen who, well, because the average citizen isn't necessarily thinking about this, and we're trying to bring this to them. So,
yeah,
so even though I joke about not
an applied scientist than a research scientist, so I'll let others do the research, and I just try to digest it and help people learn about it.
Well, yeah, but again, we want other voices. We want to hear from the people who have the questions. We want to hear from the people who think they have the answers, and we want them to introduce us to the places and the people that they know that could participate. And I have to say that I keep saying to Tom that our grandkids are going to live in such a different world than we live right now. And how much of that will be part of, we'll see. But I mean, they're going to absolutely accept the fact that there are driverless cars.
Yeah.
That's just one thing. I mean, if you look at, Melissa, if you look at your mom and she's sharp as a tack, that's encouraging. It must make you feel good, because when you get to be that age, you'll be sharp as a tack too, and you'll still be writing books, right?
Yeah.
I know you will.
All right. One other thing, Yvonne, were you going to talk about your project?
I was, but
let it go until another time.
Why, are we done? Is it over?
Well, we've been on for 25 minutes, and
oh, see, we just like to talk about books and stuff. So yes, I will say that relevant to the wellness of ourselves as human beings, everyone knows that my focus is on women. I'm very much supportive of women. I am now doing a project, and I tell everybody one of Tom's favorite phrases, that I'm eating my own cooking. And by that, I mean, I have this company where I help people publish, write and publish books. Well, I am working on a book with Annabelle Denmark, who's a photographer. And our book is going to celebrate the power of something we call warrior women. So it's 1,000 voices, intimate stories of warrior women. And it's going to be a book of both photography and words and stories. So if you think about 1,000 voices isn't necessarily 1,000 people. Might end up being 1,000 people before we're done. But the title came from the fact that we think of photographs and pictures as being worth 1,000 words. So we decided we will call it 1,000 Voices, and we would go out and interview and photograph amazing warrior women. And by that, we mean women who have been through the hero's journey, and they've come out in one piece on the other end, even if they're only put together with Scotch tape and paper clips. We want their stories to be celebrated. We want
exciting stuff.
Right, with the whole world. Similar to this book. This book is out right now, and it's called Strong is the New Pretty. And it has photographs and not a lot of text necessarily. You know, it's celebrating mostly young girls, but it's the idea there being that you pretty today means strong and powerful, and that's what we mean also. We're celebrating mostly grown women who have a story to tell, and it's going to be similar to that, but you're going to see a lot more text. We do have a site, 1,000 words or 1,000voicesbook.com, 1,000voicesbook.com, and if you have a story of a warrior woman, or you know someone who you think is a warrior woman, send us your story. There's a link on the site.
Yep.
See?
So that's Yvonne's call to action. And I forgot to mention mine. If the concept of the 100+ life intrigues you, I have a 25 Theses 100+ life manifesto. You can get that by going over to olddoglearning.com and sign up for the newsletter. So yeah, I hope that gives you guys a sense of what the show is going to be about. Please, again, if you have suggestions, if you have a book and you want to be on the show, or if you want to suggest another author for me to connect with, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, you're stuck with what I choose. So thanks for tuning in, and let me just double check. Amanda says thanks. Thanks, Melissa.
And Robbie. Thanks, Robbie.
Robbie, yep. Talk to you guys again next week. Bye-bye.